the question of beef is very much connected with the Hindu worldview and with the way Hindu society and culture has developed. Now, the cow and the Hinduism have a mystic relationship. The products of the cow, milk, curd, and ghee, these are essential to the yajna. And I think I remember telling you earlier that the yajna was a central anushtan of the Vedic people. And this yajna could not be done without ghee, milk, curd. So I think Ayurveda is something which has reached depths and heights of understanding which we are still trying to understand. This idea that when you combine two foods together, their properties change and the nutrition changes, that's a very new idea for science. We knew it when we made khichdi in the Rig Vedic age. That when you add rice and dal together and boil it and eat it, the properties of that khichdi are very different from the properties of rice and of dal.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the WAP Indian History Podcast. I'm Utkarsh.
Swagat, I am Sumedha. As always, Utkarsh's partner in this podcast.
So, could you tell us a little bit about the response to the last episode on calculus and some of the things we said?
So a lot of people wanted to put the Mad Hatter's hat on my head, and there were furious messages. Some people who shall not be named, they know who they are. They furiously messaged me on WhatsApp, but they were not willing to, come out with their arguments so that we could rebut them. So that's my point always. This is not some absolute truth program. You have any doubts, please tell us. And for all the people who have doubts, one main thing seemed to be, how do you know? You're not a mathematician, right? I'm not a mathematician. I'm a historian. So a historian of mathematics has a different role to play from a mathematician. All these, mathematicians themselves don't know Sanskrit or Malayalam, have never read the original works of Madhav or Nilkant Somaiya ji or Vararuchi. They are relying on something that has been told to them by others. They feel that source is competent and therefore it must not be challenged. There are also interesting opinions like, no, this kind of agenda setting and controversy and contradiction does not happen in math and science. They are different. You are a social science person, so you think all these conspiracy theories happen. But math and science are absolutely pure as driven snow. There is no agenda. Now, this is, laughable. It is really like, I wish I had a huge ha-ha emoji. And one of these days, Utkarsh, we must do, if they want Western historians of science and philosophers of science, we'll do the works of Thomas Kuhn and how he differed with Karl Popper and how he spoke about the way science progressed in a certain way because of certain circumstances. And if those circumstances had been different, the path of science would have been different. I'll give a small example. The treatment of depression, etc., things that happen in the brain is heavily based on medicines today. So, patients who suffer from depression, panic, anxiety, etc. are prescribed medicines. This happened because of a particular way in which psychology and clinical psychology developed. Because there are also other ways to treat these things and which are coming up very much in current years and the past few years. For example, meditation. Things like that, or different kinds of therapy. People even do sound therapy or people do color therapy. There's so many other things, but meditation is one big thing. So I hope to deal with this. We must deal with this very specifically because this kind of blind faith in science as a god is something I don't subscribe to. So you are not a social science person. What is your take on this, Utkarsh?
I see, let's talk about the assumptions that people would be making the assumption that they're making is everything that is asserted as scientific truth or the latest or the best understanding of phenomenon is validated and replicated perfectly with best understanding. That is the assumption somebody is making when they're saying, hey, this is the current scientific understanding of the history of mathematics or whatever it might be. I think what we are saying here is there are layers here. There is a layer of translation. There is a layer of context. Right? There is a layer of entrenched agendas that existed even within the scientific community at the particular periods in time where the foundational beliefs that lead to some of these assumptions existed.
And if I can interrupt you here, these foundational beliefs all come from the Eurocentric age. Most of them come from the 18th, 19th and early 20th centuries. Look at the electric car. The electric car could have come up in the early 20th century, but it didn't.
Oh
Why?
yeah, there's absolutely. See? Yeah.
So I mean, to say that science is the last frontier, it must not be questioned, is as much of a blind belief as any other religion is.
Yeah, I mean, science is supposed to be self-improving. And here, as we said, right, a lot of certain modern beliefs or assumptions are based on foundational beliefs that perhaps did not meet the same rigor as you are assuming it has met.
Yes, and so for all those who want to, who have been very well semi-abusive on the subject of calculus and called me all kinds of things, I invite you to come on the podcast. You know who you are, and explain it. And some other things that have come up, Utkarsh, is that you are trying a cover-up. It was not very clear to me what I was or you were trying to cover up. But let me reiterate, for those people who think that this is some cover-up operation, it's not. It's actually a reveal operation. We want to reveal facts, not cover them up. So this was especially in response to the video on caste as a Western construct. So one comment says, very clever, very nice cover-up. But I get your agenda. Now he or she did not, specify what the cover-up was, but warned others, don't be taken in by this cover-up. So, to all those who are listening to to me and reading that comment, we are not covering up anything. You want to ask questions, feel free. You want to come to the podcast, just write to us, right? Utkarsh, anybody who writes to us is absolutely free to join the podcast.
Yeah, feel free to come and have a discussion.
Yes.
I think we're all open to very clear-minded.
No cover-ups here.
Good.
And
so
then
after that,
just
go ahead,
one more thing, Utkarsh, this is just another thing that I've got a lot of abuse about is that why are you so anti-Nehru? How dare you be so anti-Nehru? Do you know that you are an educated person only because of him? So, well, I don't know what to say to this. I am not an educated person and I did not get my education because of Nehru. So, let's make it clear to all those people who want to say that. I think these are people who have a great belief, faith, love, admiration for Nehru, and they are absolutely, free to have their own viewpoint. We just put forth our own viewpoint and we try to put things in a slightly different perspective. So, please don't direct any personal abuse on that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think everybody's entitled to an opinion.
Yes.
If you have a very, very strong opinion about something to the point at which you are providing dramatic contradictions to a different point of view, I just hope that your strong opinion is based on you having done the rigor of trying to dig deeper into the subject versus just a general accepted belief that you may have for the last whatever. And that's the reason, personally, I don't have very, very strong opinions on a lot of topics we talk because I don't know enough. The things I know enough, I will have a strong opinion. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, so I'm very open to, and I'm very open to hear the contrary point of view as well. So anyways, that's just life. I think
there's one last thing. There are people, people who I respect, who have a different viewpoint from me, and they also reach out only on WhatsApp although. And one of them is saying that why have you become so India-centric? So I would like to tell them that this is a podcast about India and Indian knowledge systems.
Yes.
So our starting point will be India. When we speak of the world. Yeah, it says so in the title, Mark Indian History.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
whenever
I
we
mean, I
refer
have a
to,
I have a different channel on the American history of the electric guitar. It's not very India centric. If you're interested,
yeah.
I'm just saying this is the purpose of this podcast.
Yeah. So, we are an Indian history podcast, so we are going to be India centric. If you don't enjoy that, then this podcast is not for you. You can go back and, look for something else. But we are going to be talking about things from the Indian point of view. That's the whole focus. That's the raison d'etre of this podcast. So, I hope I have, addressed some of the comments and feedback. And like we said, please join us. If you have something really special to say, you are free to join us. Just drop us a line.
And please continue with the comments and feedback. This is just a
Yes.
response to it.
Yes, absolutely. We love the feedback. And positive, negative, happy, sad, doesn't matter. We love the feedback, don't we?
Yes, I mean it's again like anything. If you are very very set in your ways and the way I'm doing is right and everybody else is wrong, that's the wrong way to look at it. You should always be open to what you hear from people around you.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't have a good way to segue, but I'll segue anyway to the topic of today's podcast.
No, that's a
Which
hard
hopefully-
turn. No segue. That's a hard turn.
It's a hard turn. We just put on the handbrake
Yeah,
in our
and
non-electric
just turn.
car because electric cars have electric handbrakes. So a manual handbrake, and we have turned over. And the topic for today is hopefully, I don't know if it's going to be less contentious because people can get very, very contentious with this as well, and it's going to be food. And the reason I'm saying it may or may not be contentious is so I live in Singapore, right? And it's next to Malaysia, and the two countries they don't fight real wars, but people are always fighting about who lays claim to this dish, who invented this dish, in which country is this dish better. So food can be a pretty contentious topic as well.
Food wars are cute, but food wars can be very contentious. Sometimes I find them very cute, but they can be very contentious also. We have lots of food wars in India, not to worry.
Yeah. So let me put a big disclaimer over here. I am not the biggest. What should I say? Indian food is not necessarily my only favorite food. I love food from all over the world. But I am very, very curious to understand a little bit more about the origin and the history of food habits in the Indian subcontinent, and I'll give you 2 or 3 reasons. And I'll let you take the conversation any direction you want. I'm just telling you what are my curiosities, right? So I have 2 or 3 curiosities. Curiosity number 1 is I am curious about, like, if you think about Indian food, what I really think about is dal chawal, right? It's like the
That's
everybody
it.
thinks about it.
That's a Rig Vedic food.
Okay, so I think you're kind of answering my question. So I want to understand how has it evolved? What was the original food? How do we also link this back a little bit through different ages in time, right? Because we talk about the different ages of India. So that's a little bit. I just want to understand how different is the food that the average Indian eating today. I'm not talking about the kurkure and lays. I'm talking about the staple diet. How different is it? How has it evolved?
I hope you're also not talking about the pizza and burger and pasta in packets.
Actually, that could be a separate topic in terms of the dissemination of the diet of the urban Indian. I think that could be a separate thing altogether.
Yes.
Second one that I'm very interested in, and this is the question a lot of non-Indians ask me, and I'll just say it verbatim: why are Indians vegetarian? So, and okay,
Yes.
so because some of the markets I used to work the most on were Japan and Korea, and trust me, when you have, I eat everything, so I am easy. I'm the easiest visitor, and wasn't really a visitor. I was working on the markets, but whenever you have a lot of Indians on the business trip, we have people are rushing, trying to find a vegetarian restaurant, and sometimes vegetarian is not what you think it means because you can still have fish and it's still called vegetarian. So
Yes.
I want to understand, because I'm not saying that India has the only vegetarianism in the world. I mean, of course, you have the modern versions of it. You have some more militant form like veganism. But why is there so much widespread vegetarianism in the Indian subcontinent? What's unique? Is it to do with the culture? Is it to do with something to do with the epistemology? I don't know. I wanted to understand that. And the third thing is, I'm just going to ask you a little bit about the origin of some dishes, some Indian dishes that I do like. Let me be very stereotypical here. I do like good butter chicken. So I know that and I'm doing this deliberately because I know that there's some controversy about butter chicken as well. So maybe you could tell me a little bit about that. Uh, my wife Nidhi, as you know, is very fond of all the Gujarati food, fond of papad. So anything about that? Papadam is also a very Indian
So
thing.
papadam is also a Rigvedic food, by the way. It's very,
really?
very old.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very,
Okay.
very old.
Okay, so these are the 3 or 4 things on my mind. Feel free to start anywhere.
Okay, so Utkarsh, maybe I will start with. I just want to give a little bit of a background about food in India. Then we will move on to vegetarianism. That seems a
Okay.
looming topic. Vegetarianism therefore means we will also discuss meat eating, and therefore we will also discuss the meats that are not eaten. And then
that just yes,
yes,
beef.
So beef, the meats
I
that are
want to
not
know.
eaten. Yeah.
Yes.
And then,
Okay.
I think we can go on naturally and your questions will come
Yeah.
anyway.
Perfect,
So, we have a very specific philosophy of food in India that comes from Ayurveda. For us, food, and you will find it if you read the Upanishads, man consists of the essence of food. It is food that makes us grow, and food is produced from food. There are also very important spiritual qualities of food. So what happens when you eat something? So there are sattvic, rajasic and tamasic foods. Sattvic basically is pure, which will lead you towards peace. Rajasic is that which gives you a lot of power. And tamasic is the food that you should not be eating. It leads to tam, which is darkness, which is all negativity. So these are...
You going to give examples? I hope.
Yeah, well, sattvic would be, let's say, milk.
Okay.
Tamasic would be, well, beef would be very tamasic. In fact, it's forbidden to the extent that it is that tamasic. And other kinds of meat, say for example, the meat of venison, for example, would be rajasic because it is for kings and warriors, etc., hunters. So that would be rajasic.
Yeah.
But
I think I do want to have a discussion on beef, but we'll come to that much later, I think. Let's go through the thing.
basics. And all these are set down in the Ayurvedic theory. The Ayurvedic theory, remember, we are going to deal with Ayurveda sometime in the future, so I won't go that much into detail right now. I just want to talk of it as it pertains to food. And I think it will also provide some very interesting perspective, which I want to come to right at the end. So, according to Ayurvedic principles, there are 5 kinds of food: sweet, sour, salty, astringent, pungent, and bitter. These are the 6 kinds of food. These are the tastes. Astringent.
Okay.
Astringent would be kind of kadwa. So sweet, salty, and sour, I suppose you can understand. Astringent is not really a very good word because I don't know how to put this kadwa in English, but that's the way it is. Anyway, don't worry about it. This is just the kind of theory. The point is that every meal should consist of food from all these different divisions of taste and classification of food. You should also, it's also classified according to, you should have something to chew, something to bite, something to suck. So you see, all aspects of eating, all aspects of the nutritional content of that food, of the taste of that food, are taken into consideration. So Ayurvedic principles are the complete package. And it's interesting to note that the principles of Ayurveda continue to be validated by modern science. Just a small example. My favorite book, the Arthashastra. The Arthashastra has a description of a balanced diet for a man who is doing certain work. Will you be surprised to hear that has been validated by food nutritionists, and that is the amount of nutrition and calories you need even today? So I think Ayurveda is something which has reached depths and heights of understanding which we are still trying to understand. This idea that when you combine 2 foods together, their properties change and the nutrition changes, that's a very new idea for science. We
Okay.
knew it when we made khichdi in the Rig Vedic age. That when you add rice and dal together and boil it and eat it, the properties of that khichdi are very different from the properties of rice and of dal.
Okay.
Now
So I
these
want to
I
ask. Yeah, go ahead. Just go ahead.
no
Then
no
I'll
no
ask.
go on go on go on.
So I want to ask, and I see two different things in here. So I think I can well understand and appreciate that fundamental principles of Ayurveda are getting validated, such as the example that you gave. The question that I have is, I would tend to assume that diet is very specific to location and climate and other considerations, local considerations, let's just say that.
Yes.
In which case, that the ideal diet of someone living in Gujarat would be different from the ideal diet of someone living in Alaska, would be different from the ideal diet of someone living in whatever, in the Andes. I just made up 3 different corners of the world.
Yes, yes.
So then Ayurveda is prescribing something specifically for the Indian climate. Again, that's also pretty varied, right? If you look at Kashmir, Kanyakumari, I mean, you know that. So how do we reconcile that? Because then I don't assume there's a one size fits all. And going back to the foods that you mentioned, what is it called?
Sweet,
Tansik.
sour, salty. Yeah,
No, no.
tamsik, yeah.
Tamsik, sorry, not Tamsik. Tamsik. So, and this is why I'm going to get back to beef, right? Because Ayurveda doesn't seem to be completely against. I mean, there are some examples of meat that you mentioned.
No,
To
it's
me,
not against meat.
Yeah, so to me, the consideration of beef sounds to be like a very Indian subcontinent specific, given the role of the cow, etc. I'm guessing in case I'm saying
Yeah.
something that I don't know, just correct me later.
No, your question is perfectly valid, and
Yeah.
there is an answer to this.
So does that mean that it may be tamasic in say in the Indian subcontinent, but in say a different part of the world where that is a critical part of their whatever reason, right? People do eat meat. Many places they eat all sorts of meat. So would it be, does tamsicness depend on location? Is the question I'm asking.
No, so principles of Ayurveda do not depend on location. So these are the theoretical principles.
Yeah, absolutely.
These theoretical principles do not depend on location. So if you say sweet food in the Andes, in Alaska, and in India would be very different, right? But the principles of classification remain the same. Now this
course.
Rajasic, Tamasic, and Sattvic food, the principles are set down that this is A, B, and C. And if you are this certain kind of person, then you eat these 3 kinds of food. So there is a group which can eat tamasic food. What Ayurveda tells you is that it is tamasic. It will have A, B, C, D results. So you eat it, you will have A, B, C, D results. However, the point you made about climatic differences is a valid one, and the Ayurveda whole gamut deals with all kinds of climates in the Indian subcontinent. So we have very cold climates, we have very hot, very rainy, very all different kinds of climates. So you can say in a way that the Indian subcontinent is a microcosm of many different climates which we find in many different parts of the world. Now, as far as meat eating is concerned, it is not proscribed by Ayurveda. So it's not as if that if somebody eats whale meat in Alaska, then that person is beyond the pale for Ayurveda. That's not true. Ayurveda, however, analyzes and describes, literally millions of food items of all types. All the food items in the world, however, will not be there. So, Eskimo blubber will not be there. So, and that's a kind of, very peculiar ask. Why is it not describing Eskimo blubber? That's a very peculiar ask. What is set down and what is universal is these are the principles and these are the applications. There are also, apart from the nutritional effects of food, I remember I told you there are spiritual effects of food. So the aspect of society and culture and Hinduism comes in over here when they do not prescribe certain kinds of meat. So it's okay to eat this meat, it's not okay to eat that meat. Therefore, you will not find beef prescribed in Sushrut or in Charak. But you will find many different kinds of meat over there, which are prescribed for their health value, nutrition value, and for the effects that they have on you. It seems very obvious since it kind of warms you up, then therefore you eat it in cold climates, etc.
Okay.
The question of beef is a different one. The question of beef is very much connected with the Hindu worldview and with the way Hindu society and culture has developed. I will first deal with vegetarianism.
Yeah, let's do that first. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll look at this. So, it's true that India is the most vegetarian country in the world. Even today, after the ruin and decimation of the Indian diet and running after fads, we are still roughly 40% vegetarian and 40% purely vegetarian, which means no kind of meat. But then, Utkarsh, the whole English word vegetarian and non-vegetarian as a classification becomes a little muddled. Because for me, for example, I am normally what is called non-vegetarian. But I am purely vegetarian without even onion or garlic on certain days. Because I fast. And I am not special in this. This is across the board in India. People are vegetarian on certain days, non-vegetarian on other days. They pick out what kind of meat they are going to eat. Some eat only fish and no other living being. Some eat egg and they don't eat anything. So you know that famous Indian thing, eggitarian, because they eat eggs. So this, can you tell me what you mean by vegetarian and non-vegetarian? Because I find this classification itself very muddling when I think about India.
I mean, what I'm referring to here, a pure vegetarian would be someone who doesn't even eat egg. So only vegetables and grains and what is the other one?
Milk and all, because milk etc. also seen as animal products.
Yeah, let's not call them vegan. So not a vegan. They have milk. So they do have.
So people who don't eat meat of any animal nor egg of any animal, because fish eggs are also a very savory and interesting part of diet. Okay, so
they definitely are. Yeah.
You've grown up in Calcutta. I'm sure you've eaten lots of fish egg pakoras and fish egg this and that and the
Actually, not in Calcutta. It's Japan. No. The Japan assignment is where it became a lot
come
more.
on. I'm sure you don't remember. Calcutta, everyone eats fish egg.
Probably.
Yeah.
Not. This is more recent. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so such is the canvas of India. There are say 30-40% who are what we may call non-consumers of any kind of meat. Others may consume meat on certain occasions and not on other occasions. So, on the whole, we can say that India is a vegetarian heavy country. We can't call it a fully vegetarian country, but the food is very vegetarian heavy. So what are the reasons for this? It's a good question. And if you Google vegetarian countries, India comes right up there at the top.
Yeah.
And there's nobody even close to it. 40% vegetarians, no other country has 40% vegetarians. So
I can't think of any other vegetarian country, frankly, but maybe I'm just...
From my cursory look, I think the next was Israel at 11%. I could be... I just saw it in the morning. Yeah, that struck me as slightly strange. But there you go.
Orthodox Jews vegetarian? I don't think so, but I don't know anything. No clue.
Yeah, no clue. Remember, this is India-centric. I don't know enough about Jews.
Yes.
Okay. So, if you look at Indian philosophy, that we are all from the same, remember the par and the apar. So, we are from the same Brahman. Everything in creation is from the same Brahman. So, we have respect for all living beings. That respect mediates a kind of food culture where there are no extremes. There is no extreme meat eating. There is no extreme veganism. It is something which is harmonious with the food chain. And in Indian thought, it is very much understood that there is a food chain, which is why I don't understand these moralistic vegetarians. I'm sorry if I'm offending someone. I don't understand these moralistic vegetarians. Nature is not, the very cute thing you think it is. Nature
Yes.
is very ruthless. And
Yes.
nature has certain cycles and chains which operate no matter how cutely you think. Nature is not cute. So there is a food chain, and I think that Indian food philosophy has successfully mediated with the way nature is to be able to eat, live, grow in harmony with nature. Therefore, don't focus too much on just one thing. Don't eat up all the plants, don't eat up all the animals. There is this respect for
Yeah.
everything which is there in creation. There is a
I think you
special
raised
respect.
I think you raised a very important point. I think people who are very idealistic and naive sometimes have a babbified view of nature,
Yes,
that it's all birds and
absolutely.
bees, and
Yeah. Yeah.
nature is probably I'm forgetting the English philosopher was talking about it, right? Forgetting the name. Anyways, forget about him.
Savage.
Nature is brutal. It's savage, right? So that's just what it is.
Yes.
You have the veneer of civilization shielding you from the reality. Not my ideas of this philosopher I'm trying to remember, but yes. So it's very naive. It's very to think that I
Yeah.
am. No, you're part of it, right?
And
It's good or bad.
Utkarsh, if a lion was hungry, Bambi would definitely be eaten up. Nature does not cutely come and try to rescue Bambi.
Yeah, that's true.
So this kind of way, I find it very unrealistic, and as you said, naive, very unrealistic. You have to consume other living things, beings, to be able to sustain yourself. That is a law of nature. That's the cycle. That's the way it goes. So you feel
What
very
is the-
sorry. Yes.
Yeah, but curious then. So from a Hindu philosophical lens, why does it have to be that way? Is
Why
there
does
an
it have
answer?
to be that way?
Or it just is? Why do you have to consume someone or something else to get to survive?
That is the way it is. That is what has been observed, and therefore philosophy reflects that observation.
So there's no
I-
answer for why. It's as is. This is what it is, basically.
Because why people have to, I think it comes from that little thing that I was talking about, that from food comes food, and that food is eaten, and then you become what you are. So possibly the essence of everything is the same. Therefore, a lot in this whole ecosystem is edible by the other. But yes, that's a philosophical question which is probably based on observation of nature. Because that's the way nature is. So now, where was I? Okay, vegetarianism.
Vegetarianism, yeah.
One is this respect, and from that respect comes certain it comes certain depths of philosophical sympathy and actual sympathy for all living beings. So like Jains, they don't want to harm any living being, be it a fly, be it anything. So what do they eat? They eat only things which fall down from the trees,
Yeah.
because then they have not killed anything. Buddhists originally were neither vegetarians nor vegans nor anything. They were just told to eat everything without being fussy about food. So the Buddhist monk went out to beg. Whatever the Buddhist monk or nun got, they ate. So if they got meat, they would eat meat also. Things changed later. But there is certainly a great idea of ahimsa. So you don't want to harm others to the extent it is possible. It's not some ridiculous system of ahimsa wherein you will die of hunger, but it is a rational system of ahimsa wherein you will try to do as little damage as you can. So if you diversify your diet to include meat and a lot of vegetables, then you will get something that you need to sustain yourself. And talking of plants, I can never understand vegetarians when they think that plants have no importance, no feelings, no life as actual living beings. Why are plants not living beings and only
Yeah.
animals? I'm sorry, I have never understood this. If some vegetarian is hearing this, please tell me. And we do, in fact, have experiments which show that plants feel hurt, they feel pain, they scream. We have our own Bose who did this experiment. Maybe we'll discuss it sometime. J.C. Bose. He did this experiment. And now, of course, lots of people have done this experiment. Plants are very sensitive. So why do you think that chewing away on whatever, asparagus is fine? So this is something which is again a result of the philosophy or the understanding that the person or his or her society or culture have. It comes from that. So the first reason was that respect for all living beings. Second, coming from that was the idea of ahimsa and not hurting living beings. Therefore, it is better to not hurt animals and to diversify your diet. And then, of course, you had, as time went by, this became a kind of bigger and bigger thing, this idea of not hurting living beings. And some people became more and more vegetarian. Vegetarian. But Utkarsh,
Yep.
the important thing is that you have the option of being vegetarian in India. It has the most diverse and what can I say, huge system of giving you all kinds of vegetables to eat. So the original foods in India are shak sabji. So it is shak. Shak is a Sanskrit word which means vegetables. So that shak, you have vegetables, you have things like saag. So saag, you may over here there are 3-4 kinds in Switzerland where I live. In India you have literally hundreds of types of saag. I hope you understand what saag is. I don't know how to put it in English. I don't know how to put it in English.
Because I don't like to eat it. That's why I know what it is, of course.
So in India, very favorite and famous are palak saag, lal saag, chane ki saag, but every locality has its own saag. In my own in our own house in Ranchi, the family who lives over there, the household help, they eat tens of different kinds of saag during season. Each season they eat different saag because all that is available over there in Ranchi. So availability of food.
There is some correlation of this as well with the overall fertility of all the land around what forms the near the river, right? In the Indian subcontinent.
Yes, you've hit the nail on the head. It's because it is such a fertile area. Nagpur will have a different kind of fertile soil and give you different fruits and vegetables. So Uttar Pradesh will give you different kinds of fruits and vegetables. Kashmir, different. Kerala, different. But all of them have a whole platter of fruits and vegetables to give you. So combined with this idea of respect and non-violence and equilibrium and a kind of middle path, you have so much stuff to eat. And therefore, you can very easily diversify your diet. In Switzerland, if we restrict ourselves, if I restrict myself to that which is available in this area, I will just have to kind of, eat cheese, drink milk, eat bread. Now, of course, lots of everything is imported from everywhere else. So I eat fruits and vegetables from across the world. I don't know whether that's a good thing, but I do. But here, and one of my favorite childhood books is called Heidi, and it is set in the Swiss Alps. So you see the diet over there. It is just the milk-based products because they had cows and they gave a lot of milk and they made these milk-based products, and then after that they killed the cow, so they ate the meat. So this was it. They killed sheep and they ate the meat. This was it. They had nothing else. So availability and philosophy both have contributed to the vegetarianism in India. And there is a lot of, whether it is all the Indic religions, whether it is Jainism, Buddhism, Sanatana, dharma, Sikhism, they are all very similar. There is this great respect for all living beings and the desire to live in harmony with nature and natural cycles. So if you eat up all the cows in the natural cycle or all the venison or all the, horses, camels, what's going to happen? Therefore, balance.
It strikes me, and maybe, you probably know this much better than me, it strikes me, and this desire to be in harmony with nature is not only true for Indic religions. I feel like it's also at the base of, again, this episode has had a lot of Japan, so it's at the base of the culture there. But for me, when I look at the so-called West or the so-called Abrahamic religions, it seems very different.
Yes.
I mean, at the root of it is, and again, I am no expert, right? So if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I'm just telling you my sense. It seems very much like it's okay to exploit nature to man's ends
Yeah.
versus being a part of, because
Yes.
nature is for man's use versus being part of the whole nature. I don't know if I'm getting it right, because I don't know.
No, I think you are getting this 100% right. And I have very often thought the same. Man was created by God in the Abrahamic thought system as the Lord of creation. Man was the Lord of creation. Man had to conquer nature. Man doesn't have to live harmoniously with nature. All of it has to be exploited to the benefit of man. I think you are absolutely correct. My reading of Western philosophy is the same as yours. And therefore, you have, who was it who said, why must I climb Mount Everest? George Mallory, wasn't it? He said, because it's there. Yeah. So that, what is that kind of attitude? Sagarmatha has existed for millions of years. It has been venerated for thousands of years. But I must conquer it because it's there. Utkarsh, this is Abrahamic philosophy, and it is the curse and bane of this world. If we are moving towards climatic catastrophe, it is this idea of exploiting nature. Isn't it said that the Egyptians also knew about oil but did not want to use it because they thought it had very bad effects? But then you look at the way it has been exploited since the beginning of the 20th century, and look at where we are now. So this is a binary, living with nature and conquering nature, and its impact on the world, its impact on people is huge, this is one of the big reasons why I feel that we must bring Indic centered and look at the world and nature through Indic eyes, where you are not out to conquer, exploit, buy, sell, but live in harmony. And Mount Everest, or as we should call it, Sagarmatha, it's a very big example of it. Look at what's happening over there. That place is being destroyed. So many people are climbing it. So much of rubbish and plastic, etc., is being left over there, that Sagarmatha is being destroyed. And so have so many other fragile ecosystems.
As you were saying this, I just, it was just striking me that this ethos translates through to unfettered capitalism.
Yes.
Which has, and a consumption-based economy, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? So
right.
It becomes very much, because capitalism does not account for the externalities. I mean, externalities probably how you would call it, right? It's there. So there's an externality. Let's get some carbon credits and be done with it.
Yeah.
But
although those carbon credits are not helping nature really in any way. It's just a commercial transaction.
It's a commercial transaction, right? Recently there was a conversation about Taylor Swift's private jet, and she's like, "No, I buy a lot of carbon credits or something to that." Anyway,
that's the attitude. That's the attitude.
No, but the point is, by the way, the first thing is I am a little bit conflicted about oil and petrol. I'm a big lover of cars and petrol, so I'll put that out there. But that said, let me just step away from that for a second.
But Utkarsh, I am in the process of buying a new car, and I have absolutely refused to buy an electric car because I feel that's another patch we are putting. How is that electricity generated? How is that electricity generated?
I think we can do a separate topic on that. I have a lot to say.
In so many dirty ways, electricity is generated in so many dirty ways.
And going back to the beginning of the episode, I was saying, if you have a strong opinion, you may have. It's good if you have read a little bit about it. I think with electric cars, I have a strong opinion. Okay. So let's just say that.
Okay.
But what I was saying.
But can I hear your strong opinion in short? We'll discuss it later, sometimes in depth. But I'm interested in listening to your strong opinion.
buying an electric car is a virtue signaling way of pretending to do
Yes.
something for the world.
Yes.
Is my summary.
Yes.
Is the summary, because the
Yes.
the data in terms of whether it is indeed better for the environment is mixed at best and worse at worst. So that's it. That's what I will say.
Okay. Good. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
We will discuss it
so-
in depth sometime.
Of course, I come in as biased opinion, so that gives me the license to have my petrol car, which I. But anyways, just laying out the cards there just to be in this interest of transparency. Here's the thing. What I
Utkarsh, we have
realize
to
now-
come back to food.
Okay, food.
Yeah.
Where were we?
We
Being in
have
harmony with
discussed
nature.
discussed the vegetarianism of India,
Yeah.
based on
Yes.
philosophy as well as availability, and the ability to make wonderful tasty food from shak, saag, sabzi, etc. So that's one thing. And then we will take up this issue of beef. So why
Yes.
is it that Indians do not eat beef? Because they do eat different kinds of meat. Even in their oldest books and in their oldest philosophy, a lot of meat is eaten. But there is a large scale prohibition, large scale disgust towards the eating of beef. That is because, and before I go into it, I would like to put this in perspective for people who feel, oh my god, how irrational. The cow is a source of food and protein, etc. So why not eat it? That's because food is always mediated by culture, society, way of life, and religion. People who are saying, oh my god, why don't you eat beef? Would they cut up their pet dog and eat it? They wouldn't. So, what you eat, things may be edible, but what you eat is going to be mediated by your worldview and your understanding.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but this is something which, those people who like to bait Hindus because they don't eat beef, they keep saying this, no, oh my god, it's just an animal. It's just a source of protein, so why don't you eat it? But that is just meant to provoke. So the thing is, Utkarsh, that beef in today's discourse has just become something today to provoke and anger people who don't eat beef. So one, I disapprove of that kind of attitude. And two, the history of beef, I'll go into some of the Indic history later, but the terrible history of beef has been that it has been part of the conversion methods of the Islamic invasion. So many people have been force-fed beef to make them change their religion that it is a very, very, it's like a throbbing wound. So in that throbbing wound, if you throw a lot of salt, it's not going to be a happy situation. Therefore, it has become, and it is, a very, very traumatic and sensitive issue for those who do not eat beef. It's not a normal thing like going to a hotel and just ordering a beef dish and eat it, don't eat it, doesn't matter. It's not like that, because there's a lot of history behind it. And like I said, there is a generational memory of forced beef feeding for the sake of conversion, which is a huge trauma. So that adds to the sensitivity. Now, why and how did Indians start and end up revering the cow? So the cow is seen, and then as usual, we will go back to first principles. That is the Rig Veda, book 1, the 89th chapter, where Aditi is mentioned as being the primordial cow. So who is Aditi? Aditi is seen as that infinite, limitless, bountiful and fertile being from whom all the gods have come. So she is the mother of all the divine beings. And that Aditi is thought of as a cow. So you see that right from the time of the Rig Veda, which is again God knows how many thousands of years ago, cows have been seen as, beings to worship. Each part of the cow is often said to be a different tirth. There are many tirth, tirth pilgrimage place. Tirth Salis, where is a place. So each part of the cow is seen to be a kind of area of pilgrimage. And Gaw Seva is seen to be a really quick way to get punya. Punya is something you get if you do something good, and it counts a lot in your cycle of death, life, rebirth, etc. So you get a lot of punya by doing Gaur Seva. Now, starting from the Rig Veda, where we saw the cow as Aditi, the mother of all the Devatas, if you go through the different Upanishads, go through the Vedang, and especially go through Puranic literature, the respect, love and worship of the cow keeps increasing. Now, it is true that in Vedic literature, there are, one or two outliers. Like Yajnavalkya is famously said to have had, I don't care, said to have been agnostic, or, I don't care, I'm going to eat it if I want to. So this is often quoted by people who say that, no, ancient Indians used to eat beef. But see, he was an outlier. He was somebody who was answering someone else in a certain context. And such things are few and far between. In fact, this is the only example that is quoted. So, by and large, the focus of worship, reverence and care has always been the cow. Now, again, you may ask me why. Before I tell you why, I will tell you why, and then I'll tell you a few stories which will illustrate the importance of the cow. So, the reason is that serving the cow is said to be something which will help your own personality and your own search for Brahman. Because the cow and Sanatana dharma, the cow and the Hinduism have a mystic relationship. The products of the cow, milk, curd and ghee, these are essential to the yajna. And I think I remember telling you earlier that the yajna was a central anushthan of the Vedic people. And this yajna could not be done without ghee, milk, curd. Now the ghee was something which was discovered by the Vedic people. They obviously would have performed a lot of processes on the milk and then come up with ghee. And this ghee was also equally seen as divine, to the extent that there is a special long spoon which is called a juhu, which is used to put ghee in the sacrificial fire or agni. And this juhu is also revered as a goddess. So this calling somebody a goddess, etc., is a reference to the respect, reverence and love and care that they have for these objects or for these animals or for whatever is being spoken of. We call them devata or devi. So juhu is also seen as a devi. Now, if the ghee is central to the sacrificial fire, to sacrifice, which is the center of the entire culture, religion, way of life of the Vedic Aryans, then you can understand that the animal which produces this is going to be very, very much revered.
I got the link. Yeah.
It is also true that that cattle were economic resources. If you go through Puranic literature, or you go through Vedic and Upanishadic literature, you will see that wealth is counted in terms of cattle. That is because they were draft animals. They helped in agriculture. Then their products were also used all the time, like milk, etc., milk, ghee, curd, etc. So cattle were the real wealth. So you obviously don't want to kill the cow which gives milk. Again, remember that the cow which gives milk is in a very separate category from the cow which does not give milk. That's a separate category. And this very revered and very worshipped category is the cow which gives milk. I think it should be self-obvious that the ritual, economic and social significance of the cow to the life, economic life as well as cultural life of the people of India, the link seems to be very, very clear. Therefore, you don't kill that cattle which is the focus of your rituals, which is the focus of your economic prosperity. Obviously, you do not kill, you revere. And like I said, because ghee, yajna and search for Brahman, they are all related. Therefore, the cow and Hindus have a mystic relationship. And it's something which is not very easy to dismiss by saying, oh, it's just an animal, it's a source of protein. In the Hindu worldview, it is not. Therefore, it is literally like eating one's mother. That is why there is such a strong ban on eating beef. It is literally like eating your own mother. Because the cow is the primordial mother, the giver of everything, and the source of all divinity.
So I think two things strike me. So one is there's a difference between the female cow and the male bull, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So everything that you're saying about the cow is not true about the bull.
Part of it is true,
Or is it
because the bull was also a draft animal, and because it was used, actually the power of the bull, that's the symbolism of the bull, that's a totally different story altogether, Utkarsh.
Okay.
This symbolism is there in the Harappan Vedic period. It comes down to really the Puranic age. All of the Hindu worldview, the bull is the animal of India. And there is a mystic relationship between the bull and Hinduism and the Indian subcontinent also. And then, of course, Utkarsh, it is via the bull that more cows are born. So obviously it is not excluded. So obviously it's not as if, okay, don't eat the cow but eat the bull. No. And the bull in itself is a very strong mystic symbol of the Indian subcontinent.
Okay, and then
remember that Lord Shiva, his Vahan is the bull.
Of course.
Yeah. Second question
is, so then this seems very specific. While it is giving a metaphysical view, it seems very specific to the, economically at least, it's very specific to the Indian subcontinent. So how does the Hindu worldview reconcile?
No. Economically, it's true of most agricultural societies, Utkarsh. You go back to English agricultural society, or you go back, look at the Swiss. The economics are there across the world, and especially in past agricultural societies. It's the metaphysical and mystic relationship which is important.
So what you're saying is the other societies started eating beef because they did not have this metaphysical relationship.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they did not think that from the cow come those products which help us in realizing Brahman. Because also a mixture of these milk, curd, ghee, honey, etc. It is madhupark, and it is the offering to the gods. And madhupark is given sometimes to people who are very important, like when the daughter of the house is getting married and the var comes, the var is greeted with madhupark. So madhupark is again a very special ritual offering. All these things come from the cow. So in fact, you've raised a good point. The economic importance of cattle can be found in many places. The metaphysical and mystic importance of the cow is found only in Hindu thought. Therefore, Hindus don't eat beef. And Utkarsh, I live in Europe. I move in international circles. The number of times I have to answer these questions, and the number of times I have to, look at the blank stares of people, I wish I had money for all those times. And it sometimes leads to very difficult situations. You go somewhere, you go out with somebody, they take you to a restaurant which serves only beef. So then what do you eat? What do you eat? But for people across the world, it's just not, they don't understand it.
So, this is the only aspect of Hinduism that seems to me to be very, very rule based, that this is so wrong, don't do it. I mean, everything else seems to be prescriptive. This seems to me the only
although it's wrong, don't do it. You do it if you like, you bear the consequences. That's true of all Indian metaphysics. They never say don't do it. If you do it, then the results will be ABC. You don't care about those results ABC. You want those results ABC, go ahead, do it.
Okay.
But if you want to achieve, say for example, you want to become a tapasri and achieve Brahman. You eat beef, you will not be able to do that.
So then, per the Hindu worldview, everybody who's outside of India and eating beef will never get to. That's the worldview then, right?
I will
It
not.
seems to be very.
No, I
It
will
seems to
not
be
say
very,
yes to this, Utkarsh.
Okay.
Because in the Hindu worldview, who attains nirvana and moksha is not so simple. Because you have lots of people who have done a lot of things which are not within the system, who then achieve moksha and nirvana.
Okay.
So I will not answer this as yes, and neither does the Hindu philosophical system answer this as yes. But remember, those people are outliers. They are special. So the average person will have some average shastric ideas, but there are exceptional people who can. And I must note here that the Hindu worldview does not think that all the people who are outside this Sanatana dharma ecosystem will not reach moksha. Wrong.
No, I just meant
Everyone can
beefeaters.
reach moksha. Everyone can reach moksha in their own way.
Okay. Okay.
Because again, this is important, because this is not like the Christian and Abrahamic worldview. That if you're Christian, God loves you, and if you're not, God doesn't love you. It's not like that.
Yes. Okay.
And the
So that's
proscriptions,
important.
like I said, proscriptions are, it's not really prescriptive. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It is always cause, effect, and action, consequence. But it is in your hands to do what you like. Also, suppose your goal is moksha. There are many ways given in the whole Vedic system for you to attain moksha. Does that mean that those are the only ways? No. You can find your own way to moksha. Who knows? Even beef eaters can find their own way to moksha. Because
Okay, that's an important
it never
clarification.
says that if you eat beef you don't attain moksha is a very simplistic way of putting it. Yes, there is a whole, like I said, that strong love, affection, mystic, metaphysical relationship. So it's also a, sentimental question. Perhaps it's true that some beef eater can attain moksha. But still, that beef eater will be hurting the sentimental feeling of Hindus towards the cow, who think of the cow as their mother. Therefore, it's not just, it's metaphysics, mysticism, Sanatan dharma, love, sentiment, economic resources. Utkarsh, even today you go to a village, see the poorest farmer who has a cow, and see how much they love their cow, and how much the little children love their cows. You know, of course, that we have a certain day in the year where we actually dress them up and take care of them and worship them on that day. So this is in keeping with the respect that Hindus have for everything in nature. And we have equal respect and love for animals. So, these are the things that are kind of thrown at Hindus. So I have people who ask me, how can you worship an elephant? What do you mean Ganesh? How can you worship a monkey? What do you mean Hanuman? So that's because they lack respect for the universe. They think only man is worthy of respect. Woman, little less, not always. Abrahamic women are still fighting for that. And animals, not at all. They are just meant to be consumed, exploited. And it's only, savages, these benighted native savages who worship monkeys and elephants and God knows what. So all this is a very different worldview from the Abrahamic one. Therefore, it is very difficult for people to understand. And it is also in some of Hindu society at the moment. Anyone who wants to rebel or who wants to show that they are very smart say that, yes, I eat beef. It's seen as a sign of very, cocking a snook at Hindus.
Okay. No, this is a helpful understanding. I think that importance of, it not being a rule, it just being something that this is what you do, this is the consequence. That's an important clarification. And I guess the metaphysical aspect of the products of the cow being a big part of the rituals, I had never thought of that. So that's also very interesting.
And ghee is today understood as a superfood, Utkarsh. So I get ghee in my Migros supermarket in Switzerland, marketed as a superfood.
And marked up also, right? Accordingly.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Let's not even talk about that. But ghee is a superfood. It does have a lot of actual nutritional value. To say nothing of the metaphysical value of it being a mean. So, there's ahuti. You give the ghee to Agni. Agni takes that offering up. And that is the yagya, the sacrifice through which you attain many worldly things also, but also you attain Brahman.
Okay. What was the other thing I wanted to ask?
You were talking about regional variations, about so many different cuisines. So
Yes.
the answer to that also is, of course, that people eat what is grown locally, or they used to eat what was
Yes.
there locally. So therefore, in different parts of the country, you will have things which are easy to grow over there. So in the north, you have more of wheat eating. So you have the paratha eating Punjabis, for example. In the south, you have more rice. So you
Yes.
have the idli and dosa eating South Indians. And then if you go to Bengal, you have a lot of fish. So obviously you eat a lot of fish. So that all depends on the local ingredients which are there, how local spices or additives or processing methods have been used. For instance, in a very, very rainy place, you will not have a lot of emphasis on sun-dried foods. Sun-dried foods are very important in many parts of the country. And they are used to be made and processed at home and dried in the sun. You will not find it in rainy, it will not be there in Cherrapunji. So the local availability and then the local way of processing it, all these things are conducive to regional variations. We have very different weather and climate across the country. We have microclimate systems also. So we have a whole multiplicity of ingredients. Even the kinds of fish that you find in different places will be different. You'll have sea fish in Maharashtra.
Yeah.
In Bengal, there's a lot of freshwater fish, because in the Pokhar, in each village, those little talabs which used to be there. In Bihar and Jharkhand also, they are all now all dead and dying. Water bodies are dead and dying. We must do a session on irrigation and water culture
Yeah.
also. Yeah. But
Yeah.
however, so one thing is the difference in the availability of food and the differences in the way you want to process it. What is the interesting thing here, Utkarsh? Not the variations. They seem to me to be pretty obvious because it's a huge country with different ingredients.
That makes sense.
What is important here, that all this food has Ayurvedic principles at the basis. Whether you eat food in Kerala or you eat food of a Kashmiri Pandit or Bengal, they are all according to Ayurvedic principles, the different principles I spoke of at the beginning, and they only organize it. It's interesting to see how the food of Kannadiga will be organized, where the rice, dal, papad, etc. will be put, and how the food of the Tamilian will be organized. So the commonalities are interesting, and also how so many of these foods go back to being mentioned in the Rig Veda or mentioned in the Puran, etc. Oh, I forgot to tell you those stories of Kamdhenu and Nandini. Okay, maybe one day we'll do something only on Puranic stories, because I think we've moved on from that topic. Yeah, we've moved on from that topic. Yeah. So, say for example, you take the dosa. The dosa has been mentioned in Sangam literature, and Sangam literature is very old, 1000, 2000, maybe a little more than that, maybe near the Mauryan period. And you have the idli. Idli is mentioned in Appam. They are mentioned around the 5th century in different texts. And the vatak is very interesting. It has been mentioned in the Rig Veda also. And there are varieties of vatak or vada in the north and varieties in the south. So for me, the interesting thing is the commonality of principles and the commonality of sources from where we get all this food that is made. That is the interesting part. Regional variations are amazing and interesting because they are, they make Indian cuisine so unforgettable and so amazing. There's nothing very common in terms of taste. What will be common will be the principles underlying it. So that was something which I really wanted to point out. And these principles come from Ayurveda, which are followed everywhere. I must add a caveat that today you will not find these principles in most places. The whole system has become very broken. And there is a lot of entry of different foods eaten in very unbridled kinds of ways, especially in urban India. Although it's not as if all the food that is eaten in India today is indigenous to India. Some are not. Potatoes are not indigenous to India. Tomatoes are not indigenous to India. Guava, chiku, so many things are not indigenous to India. But some are. Mangoes are indigenous to India. So it's a mixed bag. And what has happened is that suppose foods have come, say, with the Portuguese or with whoever, then they have been incorporated into Indian cuisine. But two things you must remember. If you want to know what is authentic indigenous Indian cuisine, eat either a meal which has been prepared for the gods. That is the meals which are prepared in a mandir. They will not have outside elements. They will have foods which are indigenous to India for thousands of years. Or look at the offerings which are made to the gods. Something like til, etc. All these are indigenous to India. The second is, look at the feast in a traditional marriage, not this modern Ranbir Kapoor, Salman Khan type marriage, Utkarsh, but look at the food in a traditional, say, traditional Tamilian marriage, traditional Kannadiga marriage. Then you will see the principles through which, because of which food is prepared, how it is prepared, and how it is set out. And there are very good reasons for all of it. One day maybe we can take a Kannadiga thali or a Gujarati thali, and we can analyze what is the food, why is it there. There are very good reasons for it, and all those reasons come from Ayurveda.
One unfortunate thing that has happened is now Indian food has become this, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it's true, it's become this Punjabified, kind of everything in a lot of things. Like,
Utkarsh, I am saying it in a bad way. We have lots of cuisine in India. And all of it seems to be overshadowed. But I feel that in the past 4-5 years, maybe, there is a bit of a change.
Yeah, of course.
And we are discovering, hopefully, other things than tandoori chicken. Now, I have nothing against tandoori chicken. I love it. But there is more to Indian cuisine than tandoori chicken and butter chicken. And what's it called? Some kind of chicken malai kebab and the stuff you get when you the stuff you get when you go to a London restaurant.
Yeah, or just curry. Curry is Indian, right?
What the hell does curry mean? I'm sorry for the emphasis. What is the meaning of curry? I don't understand curry. It comes from the word, for that patta, kadhi patta. Kadhi, not curry. Kadhi itself is one of the oldest foods of the subcontinent, which is curd mixed with salt and haldi and water, and it's a kind of a thin gruel into which you can put all kinds of things. This is called kadhi. What on earth is this mongrel, this curry? I don't understand. It's some kind of
has a pretty lasting influence. In Singapore, there are many people who don't want to, like landlords in Singapore, who don't want to rent to Indians because of the curry and the cooking and the smells.
Yes.
It's very common.
Yeah, ditto. Here in Switzerland. Ditto. Yep. And I really had to go through it very badly 16 years ago when I moved.
Yeah.
No, curry is some kind of, I don't know, made up thing by the Anglo-Indian world, or maybe just the English who discovered some kind of Indian cuisine. And it means nothing. Because, for lack of a better word, the sauce in which so many of our foods are cooked, whether we are cooking meat or chicken or parval or aloo or whatever it is, that is made in so many different ways. It differs from house to house. Forget about state to state. Differs from house to house. And to just call it this peculiar one size fits all curry is ridiculous.
Yeah. Good.
How much time have we already
Yeah,
gone
I was thinking
through?
we were going to get into the stories, but 75 minutes in roughly.
No,
So
I
1
think
hour
that
50.
that'll have to. We'll have one
We'll have to
session
do a
only
part
on
two.
history of food.
History of foods.
Yeah. Anyway, Utkarsh, I think we'll do a lot of podcasts on food. So, we have series. We'll do a lot on STEM.
Yeah.
We'll do a lot on food. So, we'll
Yes.
slowly cover different
Yep.
aspects.
This is but a precursor, an appetizer,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yeah. And this time, I think we've gone down many philosophical rabbit holes. I hope the viewers have enjoyed those philosophical rabbit holes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's important. It's all adjacent to each other, and actually not even adjacent, it's part of the same whole.
It's part
So,
of the
I
same whole.
think-
Utkarsh, now you're learning to speak the Indic way.
Yes.
Everything is
Even though I
part
speak
of the
it in a-
same whole. That's
in a
why
non-Indic language.
that's how the Gita says ek anshen sthito jagat. On one ansh or one part of Brahman is the entire world. And it also talks about all of creation being a string of pearls, all strung together because of Brahman. So we are all part
Okay.
of the same creation. And it includes non-Hindu creation also. Please let us not forget that. It includes everything, literally everything. There's no difference between you and me, us and
What about
other.
aliens?
There's no difference. There are no aliens.
Does it include? There are no aliens.
No, there are no
According to
aliens.
Gita.
Utkarsh, in the Bhagavad Puran, Devi Bhagavad rather, in the Devi Bhagavad, there is a section where Devi takes Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh on her flying Viman to show her all the other worlds where there are Brahmas, Vishnus and Maheshas on different planets. So you thought that aliens were not there in the Hindu worldview? Wrong.
Actually, talking about, not that we're going to wrap it up here, but that is something we need to do. Aliens and multiverses. We need to talk about that. At
Yes,
some point in
aliens and
time.
multiverses, and the Indian philosophical view has, it knew of multiverses before,
Yes.
before Marvel discovered it. Yeah,
Good.
we will do it.
So should we end it here?
Yes,
Anything
I think
else?
so. I think so.
Wonderful.
And
Great, I
people,
hope-
if you
yeah.
have any questions on food, please send it to us. We will discuss them in other episodes, definitely.
Absolutely. Okay, wonderful. Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening and watching. Appreciate it.
Namaste and see you again next time.